I hope you guys are having a phenomenal day. If not, do understand and get your day is going to get better once your perception gets better. So earlier, I was watching Peaks. Okay, so when my oldest son comes over, we love to watch Peaks. Okay, he's really funny. Some of the stuff he says, well, though. So my oldest son just left not too long ago, and of course, I picked up the magic of thinking big. Okay, and it this chapter is chapter 3, and is talks about build confidence and destroy fear. Okay, and I'm just going to read this, a short part of this, okay, just in case there's somebody. Now, I'm no doctor, okay, but in this book, the author talks about the psychologist friend that he had who worked with several patients and how he helped them to see, a different perspective, have a different perspective, have a different perception, right, on life. So it goes on and says, the psychologist friend mentioned before told me how he helped one of his patients to stop committing mental and spiritual suicide. This patient, he explained, was in her late 30s and had 2 children. In lay terminology, she suffered from severe depression. She looked back on every incident of her life as being an unhappy experience. Her school days, her marriage, the bearing of her children, the places she had lived, all were thoughts of negatively, or thought of negatively. She volunteered that she couldn't remember ever having been truly happy. It's something when we and I remember this, when I had my spiritual journey, right? And for the first time it felt like this was the happiest that I have ever been, right? And I remember I kept telling my sister and my mother, like, this is really the happiest I have ever been. And to them, they felt like, well, it's times you've been happy, right? But I think a lot of times what we may tend to do, we may, front, right? We may put up, the personas and the facades and, smiling and stuff like that, telling everybody that we good and, things like that. But deep down inside, you may not necessarily really feel that way, right? And for a long time, that's how I felt. I felt, that I would just put up this persona and this facade until the things that I was going through and the things I had to experience, it helped me get to my true self. And I always say, like, your true self is really love, right? And it's just really about, I always, and I got this from Michael Bernard Beckworth. One of the things he said, your pain will push you while your passion pulls you, right? And that's really a dope saying, and is really, really true, because your pain is pushing you to get to the person that you was really created to be, to do the things that you was really created to do, to, get out of your comfort zone. And in the words of Abraham Hicks, one of the things she says, if it wasn't for the things that we disliked, right? How would we really know what it is that we will want for our lives? Like, if it wasn't for you being in a toxic relationship, how would you know, like, the relationship that you really, really desire? You get what I'm saying? So every experience that we tend to have and grow through, it is for us to become a better version of ourselves and for us to really, really enjoy life. It's we didn't come here to suffer, and if that's what your belief system is, that you came here to suffer, you came here to work hard and stuff like that. Of course, that's what is going to show, because you believe that. And a belief is nothing more so than a bunch of thoughts that you keep on thinking repeatedly. Okay. So it also says, she volunteered that she couldn't remember ever having been truly happy. And since what one remembers from the past colors what one sees in the present, she saw nothing but pessimism and darkness. When I asked her what she saw in a picture which I showed her, she said, "It looks like there will be a terrible thunderstorm tonight." That was the gloomiest interpretation of the picture yet I've yet heard. The picture was a large oil painting of the sun low in the sky and a jagged, rocky coastline. The painting was very cleverly done and could be constructed to be either a sunrise or a sunset. The psychologist commented to me that what a person sees in a picture is a clue to his personality. Most people say it is a sunrise, but the depressed, mentally disturbed person nearly always says it's a sunset. As a psychologist, I can't change what already is in a person's memory, but I can, with the patient's cooperation, help the individual to see his past in a different light. That's the general treatment I used on this woman. I worked with her to help her to see joy and pleasure in her past instead of total disappointment. In 6 months, she began to show improvement at that point. Hey, Tracy, peace to you, baby, peace to you, peace to you. I gave her a special assignment. Each day I asked her to think of and write down 3 specific, I feel like something was on there. Let me see. This is the part that I really wanted to cover. Okay. Let me see. That's the general treatment I used on this woman. I worked with her to help her to see joy and pleasure in her past instead of total disappointment. After 6 months, she began to show improvements. At this point, I gave her a special assignment. Each day, I asked her to think of and write down 3 specific reasons she has to be happy. Then at her next appointment with me on Thursdays, I'll go over her list with her. I continued this sort of treatment for 3 months. Her improvements was very satisfactory. Today, that woman is very well adjusted to her situation. She's positive and certainly as happy as most people. So when I tell you guys, like, when I read the books, it's not just like for the sake of merely reading, right? The books that I read is about personal development, right? And they have exercises in the books. Okay. One of the books I remember, one of the books that I read, you guys know Prosperity Bible, right? And I'm constantly reading The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles. And chapter 7, Wallace Wattles has a chapter just dedicated to, gratitude and how to change how to have a mental adjustment, right? And each and every day, from me reading that chapter and from, me listening to the personal development, mainly Bob Proctor, I'll write a gratitude journal each and every day, right? And so you have to ask yourself, are you willing to show up for you? Are you willing to do the necessary thing in order for your life to change? Hey, Adventures with Abby. So you got to ask yourself that, and if you willing to, do something different, guess what? Your life is going to change. But in a book, it says, write down each day, okay, the reasons why you have to be happy, right? You could say, for your children. Mainly, I like to say, you do it for yourself, right? And sometimes you may not be there right now, right? Sometimes you may feel like, well, what I'm gonna do it for me for. But if you have somebody in your life, especially your children, right? Because I always say, like, our children are always, watching us. We may think like they're not watching us or they're not paying attention to us, but they always watching us, right? And if you could just be inspired by your children to change your life, I guarantee you your life will change. If you use that, and I don't want to say motivation, because motivation, it dies off, right? It wears off. But if you could use that for right now as your why, right? Like, I'm gonna do this, because if I'm not happy, then there's no way that the people around you are going to be happy, right? Because the dang misery loves company is very real, okay? And so, it's these exercises that, a lot of people aren't willing. They talk about how their lives are going in such a chaotic state, but they're not willing to do the necessary steps in order for their lives to change. Like with me, I was eager. I was like truly eager for change. Like I want to change like yesterday. And I was willing. I was willing to show up. Okay. I was willing to do the thing that I never ever done, and that was meditation. But I was willing to do those things. I was willing to, invest in myself, buy the books. I was willing to, pay for the courses. I was willing. Okay. And you have to be willing. Nothing in your life is changing if you're not changing. And if you're not even taking initiative to even each and every day do one little thing different, your life will not change. And you know what's crazy? Because you have the ability to change your life. You don't have to wait for something outside your existence for your life to change. You can change it any given time. Just make the decision that I am changing. The way I am right now, I'm doing something different. And you may not know exactly, the steps and the route to go. But when you make that decision, it's almost as if like the universe is like, all right, now, we could, lead you the way, or now we could, give you some ideas, because now you focusing on bettering yourself as opposed of, things that occurred in your past that you kept on allowing to dictate your destiny, to dictate, your relationships and everything like that. So I wanted to hop on here real quick. Okay. Today was an amazing day. I was sleeping on and off very good. Okay. Very, very good. And actually I said I was going to only do like 5 videos today and get my rest and stuff like that. And that's another thing, you can't give from an empty cup, right? And that's what I tell myself. You got to make sure you get your rest and stuff like that. So with that being said, I love you guys. Keep rocking out, keep believing in yourselves, keep going, keep growing, of course, keep glowing. Until next time, peace.